The stars beyond the viewport shimmered cold and distant, but the fleet captain's gaze was fixed on the blinking dots of sensors. The human warship stood dead center, an immovable barrier. The Xyrathian Empire's armada, a swirling storm of war cruisers and assault frigates, had swept through the outer rim systems like a scythe through wheat. Worlds fell without resistance. Populations surrendered before their fleets even appeared. Their conquests were brutal, swift, and merciless. Nothing had ever stopped them. Until now. Admiral Vrax stared at the human ship's silhouette, a sleek, angular shadow against the black canvas of space. It was smaller than a Xyrathian dreadnought, but its presence was immense, not just physical, but something intangible. A silent warning. No distress calls, no demands, no hails, nothing. The blockade was absolute. The jump gates to the star. System beyond were locked, the route barred by this single vessel. It was as if a single rock had been dropped into a raging river, stopping the current cold. The Xyrathian commanders exchanged uneasy looks. It was unprecedented. No enemy had ever dared to challenge the Empire at the edge of their advance. No opponent had ever survived their first encounter. "Report!" Vrax barked. The communications officer's hands trembled as he activated the array. "Admiral, attempts to contact the human vessel have failed. No signals received. Their shields are holding strong. Energy readings are unusual. They do not respond to any hailing frequencies." Vrax's mandibles twitched with irritation. The arrogance of this species was baffling. To think that a lone warship could stop the greatest military force in the quadrant. "Prepare for engagement. Show them the power of the Xyrathian Empire." The fleet commander's voice crackled through the calm but resolute. "Admiral, this could be a trap." Vrax ignored him. The Xyrathian way was to strike first, ask questions later. Energy weapons charged. The first volleys screamed through. Space, blue and green arcs of plasma designed to shred and disable. But the human ship moved with unnerving precision, adjusting its position almost before the shots were fired. The lasers met with a shimmering barrier. The shields held perfectly, intact. The fleet's next wave surged forward, heavier weapons and missile salvos aimed at the ship's hull. A pulse wave rippled outward, and one after another, the incoming missiles detonated prematurely, vaporized by a defensive field the Xyrathians had never seen before. "Impossible," muttered Vrax, staring in disbelief as his cruisers began to falter. Inside the human ship, Captain Mira Rios stood at the command console, her eyes sharp as stars. Around her, the crew moved with practiced efficiency, their faces calm but tense. They had prepared for this moment for years. An empire might be massive, but it was also rigid, predictable. The humans thrived in chaos, in the unexpected. "Target. Their flagship's weapons array," Mira commanded quietly, fingers dancing over the controls. The warship responded, a silent predator in the void. Without warning, a pulse of gravity waves surged from the quantum core, bending space and distorting the trajectory of enemy fire. One Xyrathian dreadnought exploded, torn apart from the inside out. Back on the Xyrathian flagship, alarms blared. The bridge was a hive of frantic activity as damage reports poured in. Vrax slammed a fist on the console. "Retreat and regroup. This is no ordinary enemy." But the retreat orders came too late. The human warship pressed forward, a knife cutting through flesh. It wasn't just technology, it was will. It was something raw, something the Xyrathians had never encountered. "Admiral," the communications officer said, voice barely steady, "the human ship, it's not just blocking us. It's daring us to come closer." Vrax's eyes narrowed. This was no mere blockade. It was a challenge, one he was determined to meet. But deep inside, a shadow of doubt crept. The masters of Conquest had finally met their match. And it was human. The vastness of space suddenly felt smaller, more claustrophobic, as the Xyrathian fleet hovered in uneasy formation around the lone human warship. Every passing minute deepened, their frustration and growing fear. No messages, no signs of negotiation or retreat. Just that cold, unmoving sentinel. Commander Vrax stood on the bridge of his flagship, Dominus Rex, eyes locked on the strange vessel. Its hull reflected the stars like a dark mirror, and the faintest shimmer of its shield danced tantalizingly in the void. "We've scanned it from every angle," reported the chief science officer, a nervous hiss in his voice. "Its energy, signature, it's unlike anything we've cataloged. The quantum core is operating at levels that defy our physics models." Vrax grunted. "Explain." "The ship generates a localized distortion field. It bends space-time around it, reducing incoming fire velocity, effectively neutralizing the energy of our attacks. And it can redirect energy back at us with deadly precision." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "A shield that can fight back? That's absurd." "Not just a shield," said the scientist grimly. "A weapon. But it's invisible to our scanners. No energy buildup, no emissions we can detect. It's as if the ship is wrapped in a cloak of some ancient technology." Vrax's jaw tightened. "Send a probe. I want to know what's inside that ship. I want to know who commands it." A squadron of sleek reconnaissance drones detached from the fleet and darted toward the human warship. They slipped through the gaps in the ship's defenses, disappearing into the eerie shadows of its hull. Minutes later, the drones began to vanish one by one, their transmissions abruptly cutting out. A chilling silence fell over the fleet. "Commander," Vrax said, voice low and tense, "are we being ambushed?" "No, sir. It's more subtle than that." The scientist's voice trembled slightly. "The ship's field appears to phase. The drones out of our dimension. They're not destroyed. They're displaced. We can't track them." Vrax clenched his fists. "Impossible technology. How have these humans obtained this?" As the fleet grappled with the enigma aboard, the human warship, Captain Mira Rios, stood calm amid the chaos. Her eyes were sharp, scanning the tactical displays as the Xyrathian fleet circled, frustrated and increasingly desperate. Her second-in-command approached quietly. "Captain, their drones have all vanished. They've begun reconfiguring their formations." Mira nodded. "They think they can overwhelm us. Let them come." The warship's quantum core pulsed softly, its hum the heartbeat of a hidden power few could imagine. Mira's thoughts drifted to the years spent uncovering forgotten technology in Earth's distant colonies, relics left by civilizations, long vanished, their secrets buried beneath layers of history and war. "The core is more than a power source," she whispered to herself. "It's a weapon and a shield wrapped in one." Suddenly, the sensors blared a warning. A Xyrathian frigate lurched violently as it was engulfed by a sudden burst of gravitational distortion. The space around the ship seemed to twist and buckle, its hull crushed by invisible forces. "Enemy ship disabled," announced the tactical officer. The fleet commander's face darkened. "They're not just defending, they're hunting us." Back in the Dominus Rex command center, tension mounted. The Xyrathians scrambled to adapt, but their tried-and-true tactics faltered in the face of an enemy that bent reality itself. Ships were disabled and destroyed without warning, their crews lost in the void. Vrax paced the bridge, wrestling with doubt. What are these humans? How could a single warship hold off an entire fleet? His communications officer interrupted with a shaky voice. "Sir, there's a faint transmission detected from the human ship. It's brief, cryptic, almost like a signal, but it's heavily encrypted and layered with interference." Vrax nodded sharply. "Attempt to decode it. I want answers." Hours passed as the fleet remained locked in a deadly stalemate. The humans did not attack openly, but their invisible weapon and impenetrable shield defied every assault. The Xyrathians were trapped. staring down an enemy they could neither understand nor defeat. On the human warship, Mira's expression was unreadable. She knew this battle was just the beginning. Their true strength lay not in brute force, but in the secrets hidden deep within their ship, secrets that would change the fate of the galaxy forever. And somewhere in the shadows, the question hung heavy. What price had the humans paid for such power? And what price would the Zyrathians pay to claim it? The silence inside the Zyrathian boarding vessel was suffocating. Cloaked in shadows and whispered orders, the elite strike team drifted toward the human warship. Their mission clear but perilous: infiltrate the enemy vessel, disable its core, and end the blockade. Every warrior was a master of combat, bred and hardened for war, but even their confidence faltered against the unknown. Commander Varn led the boarding party, his sharp mandibles clicking softly as he checked his equipment. Stay alert. They won't make this easy. The airlock hissed open, and the team crossed the threshold into eerie emptiness. Inside the human ship, dim red emergency lights cast long shadows down narrow corridors. The metal walls were cold, but strangely quiet. No hum of engines, no chatter of crews. Just silence. "Where is everyone?" whispered a Zyrathian scout, nervously scanning. Then cryptic symbols appeared on the walls, strange glyphs glowing, faintly, with an ancient light. They pulsed rhythmically, as if alive. "Is this some kind of message?" the scout asked, voice trembling. Commander Varn shook his head. "Or a warning?" Suddenly, the floor beneath them trembled. Traps sprung with deadly precision. Laser grids slicing through the air, toxic gas vents releasing clouds of noxious fumes, and shifting walls that threatened to crush intruders. One by one, the boarding party found themselves ensnared, separated, hunted. "Fall back! Regroup at Sector 7, Varn ordered, but his voice was swallowed by the labyrinthine corridors. As the humans emerged from hidden compartments, silent, lethal, they struck with terrifying efficiency. The boarding team, despite superior numbers and armor, were driven into retreat by foes who knew the ship's every secret passage. Back on the Dominus Rex, Admiral Vrax watched the live feed from the boarding team's drones. The images flickered and glitched, one moment showing empty corridors, the next revealing brief, shadowy figures darting between walls. "Are those humans?" Vrax muttered, leaning closer. "They move like ghosts." "Yes, sir," said the tactical officer grimly. "They use the ship itself as a weapon. Every passage, every corner is a trap." Vrax clenched his fists. "We underestimated them." Deep within the human warship, Captain Mira Rios stood on the command deck, eyes locked on the tactical display. "They've sent their best," she said quietly, "and yet they falter." Her second-in-command approached. "They can't comprehend what they face here. This ship is more than steel and circuits. It's alive in its own way. Every glyph, every system is part of an ancient network." Mira nodded. "We are not merely defending a ship. We are defending a legacy." The boarding party's leader, Commander Varn, staggered into a control room, his suit damaged, breath heavy. He reached for the console, fingers shaking, desperate, to disable the quantum core. But as he touched the interface, the room trembled and a voice echoed. A deep, resonant tone filled with power and warning. "You do not belong here." Varn froze. "Leave now, or be consumed." The doors slammed shut behind him, sealing him in darkness. Outside, the human warship shifted, its hull seemingly breathing, adjusting defenses, reacting to the intruders like a living creature. On the Zyrathian flagship, tension spiraled into panic. The boarding party was not returning. The blockade remained unbroken. The mysterious technology and tactics of the humans defied every known law of warfare. Admiral Vrax paced the bridge, voice low but urgent. "Recall the boarding teams. We need another approach." The fleet hesitated, caught in the deadlock of the unknown. "Or," Vrax added, eyes narrowing, "we bring the full might of the Empire down on that ship. No prisoners." As the fleet readied its devastating response, the question lingered in every mind. What ancient power did these humans wield, and how far would they go to protect it? The void between stars seemed suddenly darker, filled with shadows deeper than space itself. Captain Mira Rios stood steady at the command console, the bridge lights dimmed to a soft glow that highlighted the steely determination in her eyes. Outside, the relentless Zerathian fleet loomed like a dark storm, their ships shifting and weaving, searching for any weakness in the human warship's defenses. But none appeared. "Their weapons fire is losing effectiveness," her tactical officer reported, fingers flying over the controls. "The quantum field generator is stabilizing. Their attacks, they're being deflected or slowed before impact." Mira's lips curved into a faint, grim smile. "Good. Let them tire." For generations, humanity had been underestimated. Their sprawling colonies had faced hostile environments, isolation, and predatory species, forcing them to adapt or perish. Where empires relied on overwhelming force and rigid strategy, humans thrived on unpredictability, improvisation, and fierce resolve. "Captain," her science officer said, voice low, "the core is more than just a power source. It manipulates gravitational fields, bending space-time around the ship. It doesn't just defend, it changes the very battlefield." Mira nodded. "It's not just defense. It's a weapon." Suddenly, the ship shuddered, and the tactical displays lit up with warnings. A Zerathian dreadnought barreled toward them, charging its massive plasma cannons. "Target their flagship's weapons array," Mira ordered. With a subtle shift in the ship's core, a ripple of gravity waves surged outward. The dreadnought's plasma blasts were slowed, then pushed off course, barely grazing the warship's hull. In retaliation, a focused beam of energy lanced out from the human vessel, striking the dreadnought's weapons bay. Explosions tore through, the enemy ship sending it spinning helplessly into the void. "Enemy ship destroyed!" the tactical officer called out. Across the Zerathian fleet, confusion spread like wildfire. Their strategies faltered, their formations breaking apart under assault from an opponent who seemed to bend reality itself. Admiral Vrax gritted his teeth on the bridge of the Dominus Rex. "What kind of sorcery is this?" he demanded. "They're not just defending, they're hunting us." One of his officers, a young strategist named Vec, stepped forward hesitantly. "Sir, it's not magic. It's advanced quantum technology, something we never anticipated. Their ship warps space, manipulates gravity. They fight in ways we can't counter." Vrax slammed his fist on the console. "Then we must adapt, find their weakness." Meanwhile, deep within the human warship's core, engineers monitored the quantum field generator, its delicate systems humming with a strange, otherworldly energy. Mira approached the chief engineer, Light Aren Malik. "How stable is the core?" she asked. "Stable, but pushing limits," Aren replied. "It's like holding a star in your hand. We can maintain this field, but it demands constant attention and precision." Mira's eyes darkened. "If it fails," Aren nodded grimly, "we won't survive long." But the crew's morale was unshaken. They had faced worse odds before. The human spirit was their true weapon, the relentless drive to survive, to fight back against impossible odds. Outside, the Zerathian fleet regrouped. New tactics emerged, coordinated strikes, feints, and probing attacks. But every attempt was met with the human warship's unpredictable defense and devastating counterattacks. A sudden alert blared on the tactical screen. Unidentified vessel approaching fast, cloaked. Signature matches none on record. Mira's brow furrowed. "Another player in this game?" Her second-in-command shook his head. "Unknown, but not allied with the Zerathians. The arrival, of this shadowy craft hinted at forces beyond the current conflict, ancient watchers or rival powers drawn by the escalating war. Mira glanced at the stars outside. This fight is bigger than any of us imagined. Back on the Zyrathian flagship, Vrax stared at the tactical display, realization dawning. We face more than a ship. We face a new era of warfare, one the Empire is unprepared for. The human warship remained a beacon of resistance, its secret edge keeping it one step ahead. But the coming battles would test the limits of technology, will, and survival, and humanity's true strength was only beginning to show. The void of space was vast and silent, but the tension inside the human warship was electric. Captain Mira Rios watched the radar closely as the unidentified vessel approached, its silhouette barely visible on the edges of their sensors. Cloaked, elusive, and definitely not Zyrathian. "Identify the ship," Mira ordered, her voice calm but firm. The tactical officer shook his head. "Unknown. Its energy signature is low and heavily shielded. Its technology doesn't match anything in our databases." A flicker of unease passed over the bridge. For years, humanity had stood alone against hostile empires and merciless predators. Now, a new variable had entered the game, and no one knew if it was friend or foe. Before anyone could react, a sudden burst of energy pulsed through the sector. The cloaked ship dropped its disguise, revealing a sleek, elegant vessel bearing the insignia of the Valari Ascendancy, an ancient alien race rumored to be guardians of balance in the galaxy. "Captain Rios," came a clear, melodic voice. "Over the comm, we have monitored the conflict. The Zyrathians' advance threatens us all. We offer an alliance." Mira exchanged a wary glance with her second-in-command. "Why should we trust you?" The Valari commander responded smoothly, "Because without unity, none will survive. The Zyrathians conquer indiscriminately. Their hunger for dominion will consume all, including your worlds." Vrax's fleet, unaware of this new development, prepared for a renewed assault. But now, the stakes had shifted. The human warship had gained an unexpected ally, and the balance of power teetered on the edge. A joint tactical meeting between the humans and Valari was convened in the human ship's holographic war room. The Valari commander, a graceful figure, named Ellis Varen, outlined their strategy. The Zyrathians rely on overwhelming force and shock tactics. Their technology, while formidable, is rigid. We bring adaptability and knowledge of the cosmic anomalies they ignore. Mira nodded thoughtfully. "Our quantum core can hold the line, but it strains under sustained attack. Your fleet's precision strikes could give us the opening we need." As plans solidified, reports arrived from the front lines. The Zyrathians had deployed a new class of warship, larger and more heavily armed. Vrax was not willing to lose face. His pride demanded escalation. On the Dominus Rex, Vrax's voice was cold as steel. "Prepare the Leviathan-class dreadnoughts! Crush them!" The newly deployed dreadnoughts thundered into battle, their weapons unleashing torrents of plasma and kinetic fire. The combined human-Valari fleet braced for impact. But this time, the human warship's core had support. Valari energy manipulators interfaced with the quantum field, stabilizing and enhancing the shield. The battle was brutal. The Leviathans tore through the Valari flanks, but their massive size made them vulnerable to the nimble human vessels. In the chaos, Captain Mira ordered a daring maneuver. The human warship surged forward, piercing the Zyrathian formation. The quantum core pulsed, sending a wave of distorted gravity that crippled one dreadnought's engines. Vrax's fury erupted. "Destroy that ship at all costs!" But before his fleet could respond, the Valari fleet's precision strikes hit critical points on the remaining dreadnoughts. One by one, the massive warships fell into chaos, forced to retreat. The battle ended with the Zyrathian fleet limping away, battered and confused. In the aftermath, aboard the human warship, Mira stared out at the stars, the weight of their fragile victory heavy on her shoulders. An ally like the Valari could change everything, she said softly. But can we trust them? And what if they have their own agendas? Ellis Varen stood beside her, eyes steady. Trust is earned in the fire of battle, Captain. But beware, the galaxy's greatest threats often come from within. Meanwhile, in the shadow of retreat, Admiral Vrax seethed. The humans and Valari had shown strength beyond reckoning, but the Empire did not yield. No alliance will save them forever, he vowed. The masters of Conquest will adapt and return. And somewhere deep in the human warship's quantum core, an ancient secret stirred, ready to awaken. The hum of the quantum core filled the lower decks of the human warship, a steady pulse like a heartbeat. Yet beneath its familiar rhythm, something ancient and dormant stirred. Captain Mira Rios descended the narrow stairwell to the core chamber, flanked by Lieutenant Aaron Malik and a small team of engineers. The recent battle had pushed the core beyond its normal limits, and strange fluctuations had begun to show on the diagnostic readouts. "We're detecting energy signatures we don't recognize," Aaron said, voice tight with concern. "Patterns that don't match any known human or Valari technology." Mira's gaze sharpened. Could this be the source of the ship's strange power? Something deeper than the quantum field? Aaron nodded. "We believe the core is linked to an ancient alien artifact buried within the ship's hull, something predating humanity itself. Our ancestors discovered it in a forgotten system centuries ago and built the warship around it." The walls of the chamber seemed to hum with power as they approached the core's heart, a crystalline structure suspended in a containment field, glowing with shifting colors like liquid starlight. Mira reached out, fingers hovering near the surface. "What does it do?" Aaron hesitated. "It manipulates reality on a quantum level. Space-time, gravity, energy, all bend to its will. But it's unstable. We've only scratched the surface of its potential." Suddenly, the ship shuddered. Violently, alarms blared as the hull's sensors picked up a massive energy spike from deep within the artifact. "Core integrity compromised," Aaron shouted, eyes wide. "If it overloads, it could tear the ship apart." Mira's mind raced. "Can we stabilize it?" "We'll try," Aaron said, fingers flying across the control panel. But as they worked, the core pulsed again, brighter, this time. A translucent figure materialized within the chamber, a holographic projection of a being unlike any they had seen, tall, ethereal, with eyes like burning stars. "I am the Guardian," the figure intoned, voice echoing with ancient power. "You have awakened the legacy of the ancients, but with power comes responsibility and sacrifice." Mira swallowed hard. Who were the ancients? "They were the architects of this galaxy's hidden forces," the Guardian replied. "They harnessed the quantum fabric of existence to protect against threats beyond imagination. This artifact is their final gift, and their last warning." Aaron looked to Mira, voice shaky. "If we misuse this power, we could unravel everything." The Guardian's gaze seemed to pierce through time and space. "The Zerathians seek to claim this power for conquest. To stop them, you must unlock the artifact's true potential, but beware the cost." Suddenly, the core's energy flared, flooding the chamber with blinding light. Mira felt a surge of knowledge and understanding flood her mind. Visions of stars being born and dying, of vast battles fought across dimensions, and of humanity's place in the cosmic tapestry. When the light faded, the Guardian was gone. But the warnings remained. Mira turned to Aaron. "Prepare the crew. The war is far from over." Outside the ship, the Zerathian fleet was gathering once again, regrouping for another assault. But now the human warship held a secret weapon, one that could shift the balance of power. Admiral Vrax stared at his tactical display, sensing the storm gathering. "They wield something we cannot comprehend," he growled. "This is no longer a battle for territory. It's a war for the future of the galaxy itself." As the stars shimmered coldly outside, the ancient legacy within the human ship pulsed with silent promise and deadly potential. The stars outside the human warship glittered cold and distant, but inside the tension was tangible, a coiled spring ready to snap. Captain Mira Rios stood on the command bridge, her eyes sharp and focused as the quantum core hummed beneath her feet, its ancient energy resonating through the ship. The Guardian's cryptic message echoed in her mind, a warning and a challenge. Across the void, the Zerathian fleet had regrouped, their numbers battered but not broken. Admiral Vrax's fury was as relentless as ever. "Prepare for full scale. Assault," he ordered. "The humans will not hold their secret weapon for long." The human and Valari fleets readied for the storm. Valari Commander Ellis Varen stood beside Mira, her calm presence a steady counterpoint to the mounting chaos. "Our combined forces will hold the line," Ellis assured. "But the artifact's power is unpredictable. Use it wisely." As the Zerathian dreadnought surged forward, the human warship's quantum core flared to life, sending ripples through space-time. Gravity waves bent around their vessel, distorting enemy targeting systems and throwing plasma blasts off course. In the heart of the battle, the human ships darted with ferocious agility, striking at weak points revealed by Valari intelligence. Explosions blossomed in the void as Zerathian ships were torn apart by precision attacks, but the Zerathians fought with brutal tenacity. Vrax unleashed a devastating energy wave, aiming to crush the human flagship's defenses. The quantum core pulsed wildly, struggling to hold the shield. Lights flickered. The crew braced for impact. At the last moment, a surge of raw power erupted from the artifact, rippling through the ship's systems. Space itself seemed to ripple and bend, tearing open a fleeting rift that swallowed the energy wave. The bridge crew gasped, stunned by the display. "Core stabilizing," Aaron Malik reported, sweat beading on his brow. "But this strain won't last." Mira's voice was steady, commanding. "Keep the defenses up. We hold here." Suddenly, the tactical display flickered and changed. The quantum artifact was responding to her commands, shifting the battlefield in real time. It projected hidden enemy movements, revealing ambushes and weak points. With newfound insight, the human and Valari fleets launched a coordinated strike, targeting Admiral Vrax's flagship, the Dominus Rex. Laser fire and missile barrages converged. On the dreadnought, tearing through its shields, Vrax snarled, commanding his crew to focus all firepower on the human warship. But the quantum core responded again, bending space and warping attacks away. Aboard the Dominus Rex, chaos erupted as systems failed and alarms blared. Vrax's pride shattered with each blow. "Retreat is not an option," he snarled. "We fight to the last breath." But the tide was turning. From the rift created by the artifact's power, a squadron of Valari fighters emerged, striking with unmatched precision. The Zerathian fleet faltered, disarrayed and overwhelmed. Back on the human warship, Mira's thoughts raced. The artifact was more than a weapon. It was a beacon, a challenge to all who sought domination through force. But as the battle raged, a chilling realization settled in her mind. The Guardian's warning was clear. Power came at a cost, and the true test of humanity's resilience was yet to come. As the Dominus Rex retreated into the dark void, nursing its wounds, the humans and their Valari allies prepared for what lay ahead. The masters of Conquest had been blocked, but the war was far from over. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the next move. The warship's hull creaked softly as it drifted through the silence between battles. The glow from the quantum core bathed the corridors in shifting hues of blue and violet, like the pulse of some ancient heart. Captain Mira Rios stood alone in the chamber, her gaze fixed on the crystalline artifact suspended at the core's center. The battle had been won, at least for now. The Zerathian fleet was broken, scattered into the void. But the price had been steep. The core was strained to its limits, and strange, uncharted energies had begun to seep from the artifact, twisting reality around the ship. Mira's mind raced, with questions. What was the true nature of this power? Could humanity control it? Or would it consume them as it had countless civilizations before? Her thoughts shattered as a sudden tremor rocked the ship. The artifact flared, brighter than ever, flooding the chamber with blinding light. When her vision cleared, the Guardian stood before her once more. But this time its tone was grave. The ancients did not merely create this artifact to defend. It is a seed, a catalyst for evolution, the Guardian intoned. It awakens potential, but demands sacrifice. Mira swallowed hard. What sacrifice? The merging of mind and matter. To wield this power, you must surrender your physical form. Become one with the quantum fabric. Only then can you guide its vast potential. A chill ran through her veins. The cost was unimaginable. To lose oneself in a realm beyond corporeal existence. Yet the alternative was extinction at the hands of the Zerathians. Behind her, the ship's systems flickered as reality itself seemed to bend. The walls shimmered, and whispers echoed in the silence. Voices from across time, warnings from fallen civilizations, tales of hubris and downfall. Mira understood then that the artifact was not just a weapon or shield, it was a test. To rise as guardians of the galaxy, humanity had to embrace its destiny beyond flesh and bone. She turned to her crew, their faces pale but resolute. This is our moment. We fight not just with weapons, but with our very souls. The decision was unanimous. Volunteers stepped forward to undergo the merging process, their consciousnesses fusing with the artifact's quantum field. As one, they transcended physical limits, becoming living conduits of cosmic power. The ship surged with new energy, warping space around it like a living star. The Zerathian fleet, sensing the shift, launched a desperate final attack. But reality bent to the will of the newly awakened humans. Waves of quantum energy washed over. Enemy ships, unraveling their weapons, distorting their minds. Admiral Vrax's flagship was caught in the maelstrom, tearing apart at a subatomic level. The masters of Conquest fell, not to brute force, but to a force beyond comprehension. As the dust settled, Mira and her transformed crew emerged as something new. Guardians of a fragile peace, wielders of an ancient legacy. But as the ship sailed onward into the endless night, a whisper lingered in the quantum winds. The true conquest is not of worlds, but of self, and humanity's greatest battle had only just begun.